And then it is up to you. It's all yours.
Thank you. So what we're going to do, for those of you who may not be familiar with it, we're going to have, I'm going to read a contemplative meditation, and then we'll have a 1 minute of silence for you to consider that. And then Jackson will sing an invocation song. I will do an invocation or evocation, an awareness of the presence of God, which is always with us. And then he'll close with a song, and then we will move on to Reverend Angelica's talk. The last title that I saw, and I'm aware that they change, but it was The Winds of Change, so I guess that's okay. I found this quotation and I kind of liked it. I've had this experience, and it's really hard to explain to someone what this concept is unless you've experienced it. But if you haven't experienced it, it is hopeful. And if you have, it's a restatement of it. So this is John Passaro. He says, when you decide that you are going to do whatever it takes for as long as it takes, sometimes during your seemingly infinite journey, the weather vane will just change direction, and the new winds of positive change will blow at your back instead of into your face, and things will just get easier, and you will start to see progress right out of the blue. When that day happens, you will know that it is just a matter of time, and time is what we have.
There is only one mind in which we all live and move and have our being. There is only one heart in which we all live and move. God and I are one.
And so this morning we turn our awareness inward to that center within us where God resides. And we also become aware that we are all one. We are all manifestations of this one God, expressing as individuals. And recognizing the idea of the winds of change and the change that is inevitable in life, we know that if we set our sails with the wind, our journey will be smoother than if we try to work against it. Spirit offers us all that we desire, and it is our job to accept. It is our privilege to accept. And so as we desire change, and as we desire for things in our lives or in our world or in our community or in our family to improve, to change, to expand, to evolve, we know that within us is the ability to connect with that one spirit which guides and guards all. And in connecting with it, we are in the flow. And in the flow, all things do come. We name it good and very good, and we allow it to show itself in our lives. And so it is. Amen.
So it is.
There is only one heart in which we all live and move. God and I are one.
Thank you, Jackson and Pamela. That was good. So this morning my talk is the winds of change. I didn't change this one. And lately it seems like I laugh and say I live in a wind tunnel because the wind seems to, I don't know whether it rushes up from the green belt behind me or where it comes from, but it whips around my house and moves everything, all the plants, all the trees, everything. And I've contemplated it a lot because of the fact that part of me, goes out and says to the trees, I know you're strong, you're not going to fall over in this wind. And there's something that, it's sort of like wind can either push us or pull us or cause chaos or clean up the air. It's an interesting thing to contemplate this idea of the winds of change. And with the pandemic and the other things that have been exacerbated by it, it's brought disorder to our lives. And our natural, or our human rather, inclination is to resist and try to control the disorder. And the disorder really is demanding a change. And we want to remain in the zone that we know. There's a part of us that resists change. And yet when the change comes and we're on the other side of it, then we look back and we go, wow, why did I resist that? I read a story about a lake, Lake Leman, that is near Geneva in Switzerland. And it's situated between the Alps and the Jura Mountains. It might be Jura Mountains. There are more than 70 different winds around this lake and on this lake. And on the days when there isn't much wind, sailors scan the becalmed lake looking for any ripples on the water. And when located, the skipper changes direction and heads toward the disturbances to find the wind that is blowing there. The sails fill up and the boat receives the power to sail quickly towards its destination. Those who are most successful in locating disturbances on the water reach their destination and complete the race. They have embraced the changing winds. And so my feeling is that it's time for all of us to embrace the changing winds. And as you can see on this slide, the same wind blows on us all, the winds of disaster, opportunity, and change. Therefore, it's not the blowing of the wind, but the setting of the sails that will determine our direction in life. And for me, in this metaphor, the sails are our consciousness. So over the past year, we've been definitely offered a lot of moments of upset in this, the winds of change that have been blowing that are called the pandemic. And yet, when we really think about it, they become openings for us to move into and have our sails filled and move forward in our life, propelled by the creative energy of divine life. And I love this idea of my sails being filled. And how do we fill our sails? Well, for me, it's meditation and spiritual reading and spiritual mind treatment and doing the work that I do. Then I feel my sails are full. And I'm not a sailor, but I have a feeling that if I try to go across the winds instead of with them, then that would create a lot of unease on my sailboat. So as we're moving through the finishing part of this experience that we've collectively had around the world, it's time to embrace these winds of change. Jim Rohrer says, our lives don't get better by chance. They get better by change. And we all know that change is inevitable. And when we know that change is inevitable, it makes me wonder why I resist it, or why the human consciousness as a whole tends to resist it. Because change is inevitable. I mean, we're not still living in little tiny baby bodies. We don't still have all the toys that we had when we were young. Change has happened over and over and over and over and over again in our lives. And yet it seems to be that as we get to be adults, that we tend to think, oh no, change, and we try to resist it. So to remember that change is inevitable is really important. And there are always going to be those winds of change. I found this quote by Alan Watts that I like. The only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. So what if we did that? What if we felt that those winds of change more fully and allowed ourselves just to plunge into them and move into them, move with them, and join the dance? So it came to me that there isn't any simple way to respond to the disorder that forces us to reorder our lives and head in a new direction. There was no simple way for us to move into the pandemic sheltering at home. There was no simple way for us to realize that we could no longer be together in person. There was no simple way to start thinking, oh gosh, I'm going to have to make a mask, a fashion accessory for God knows how long. There was no simple way to respond to the disorder. However, if we welcome these moments into our lives, this can be the key to bringing us back to the practice of acceptance. And here's what I really want to talk about this morning, is this idea of welcoming change, really welcoming it. Welcoming it will bring us back to a place of acceptance. Welcoming it will allow us to surrender to it, which then allows these winds of change to blow us in a new direction. And the creative power of the universe then propels us along this new path. I have this idea that the universe always has our highest and best in mind. Does anybody else join me in that idea? I mean, that's part of our teaching. And to think about this, instead of becoming distressed, disappointed, frustrated, angry, whatever the emotion that comes up because of the changes that are going on, what if we just said, okay, here it is. Here's another change. Let me plunge into it. Let me welcome it into my life. And so I found this video that is about a welcoming prayer. And this prayer is from the Catholic tradition years and years and years ago. So let me stop this share for a moment, and I'm going to set up this video so that you can see what I'm talking about.
Why is a shot of olive oil the perfect way to ring in
Oh
the
boy,
new
you get
year?
an ad. What fun.
Taking a shot every day.
All right. So just be quiet for a moment and listen. Let yourself listen to this fully. And read it, of course. So let yourself just think about what you're experiencing in your body at the moment. Think about how it made you feel to let go of, for instance, affection and esteem, your desire for that. Think about what it would feel like to let go of everything, just everything. In a way, for me, this idea of welcoming is so important, because what we're actually welcoming is that powerful presence of the divine that is our life, that is everything that we see. It's our consent or our acknowledgement of that divine presence within us. So what if we were to get up in the morning and just say, I welcome this day and everything that's in it. I let go of my desire for security, for affection, for control. And I just embrace this moment as it is. And with every moment that comes into your experience, you allow yourself to plunge into it, as Alan Watts says. Move with it and join the dance. I have a feeling that one of the lessons of the pandemic has been about letting go of control. And I know that the more we allow ourselves to trust the universe, to absolutely trust the universe, the more that we allow ourselves to let go of, or to become less resistance to change, that we can embrace new opportunities and move in a new direction. I have a feeling that for all of us, the universe is moving us up to a higher consciousness, a higher level. And because we're so used to all of the things, we're so used to being in a body and having meals and pets and friends and jobs and reading books or watching TV or all the things in the material world. We're so used to that we forget about who we really are. And so to me, it's like these winds of change have blown us one way or another in order to remind us of the truth of our being. And maybe these winds are blowing us into a place where we find ourselves renewed by who we really are, by divine life, led by divine intelligence and divine love. Maybe we'll pay more attention. And I think that as we deepen a practice of welcoming absolutely everything into our lives, when we look back on the winds of change that were uncomfortable in our lives, we do see what we learned from it, usually. We come out of it stronger. We come out of it feeling differently. So as we welcome everything in our life and see any disappointments or blockages, etc., as just paths, opportunities, and we allow ourselves to accept those as part of the human experience with an open heart, and we welcome absolutely everything into our lives, it opens the way to embrace the truth of our being, that who we are is divine. What everything is divine. There isn't any way to get away from it. There isn't any way to avoid it, except we forget, or we get hypnotized by the ways of the world and we forget. But I know that as we allow ourselves to welcome in everything, that we begin to live our lives with a sense of curiosity. Like I said last week, we begin to rediscover things. We begin to see that there's a lot more to life than we might have thought before. And we have a renewed commitment to living as a spiritual being, having an experience that we're calling human. So allow yourselves to really welcome in everything. In the Global Vision, the CSL Global Vision, it says, we envision humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence and discovering the creative power of thought. A world where each and every person discovers his or her own personal power and ability to create an individual life that works within a world that works for everyone. I think that when we really welcome in the universe, welcome in the divine, welcome in the day as it proceeds forth every morning, that we begin to understand just how powerful we are. And we do create a better life. A life that sparkles more than it does now, perhaps. And we end up creating a world that works for everyone. To me, this is something that the world needs so badly right now. Our willingness to recognize that in truth, everything, absolutely everything is God, and to welcome God in with open arms, an open heart, and open mind. I mean, God's already within. We don't have to welcome it in, but we have to acknowledge it. We have to pay attention to it. So I know for each one of us that we're doing this, that we're moving forward and taking everyone with us. Catherine King, our Hawaiian practitioner, wrote this affirmation, so join me in saying it, and then we'll go into prayer. Though the winds of change may be happening all around me, I stand strong in my knowing that infinite intelligence knows all and is only good. I am grateful that I am divinely guided at every moment to my highest and best. And knowing this truth, I welcome in life, life itself. I know that divine life is within me. And up until now, I might have tried to control it or manipulate it or move it into a place where I think I know what is right. And in a sense, I do. And yet there is an infinite intelligence and unconditional love within me that is ready and willing to express itself more completely in, through, and as us. And so we welcome that in. We welcome it. Whether we're having challenges or great opportunities or feelings of being the beloved, no matter what it is, we welcome it in with open arms and open heart. I know for each one of us that as we move forward along this spiritual adventure called life, that we do so with the eyes of a child, allowing ourselves to see beauty, see the divinity absolutely everywhere. We have a curious mind that allows us to be open to more of this universe than we thought was here before. We are willing and ready to let go and let God live in, through, and as us completely, beautifully, wonderfully. And I know that our willingness to do that brings to us, attracts to us, all kinds of new experiences and activities. And so we let go of any resistance we might have and open up and welcome them in open-heartedly. And this is good, very good. And so I celebrate us as we move along our path together as a tribe called the Eureka Church of Religious Science, or Eureka Center for Spiritual Living. I know for each one of us that we're moving along our paths, and because we're welcoming, others are welcoming. And the radiation of love and light and power, all of that spreads out across the world, around the world, over the planet, blessing and nurturing and healing and doing good work. So I celebrate us as we walk this path. It is God's path, and it is a good one. So with a grateful heart, I release these words into divine law, knowing that they are so, knowing that in some way we've received something that is absolutely perfect for this adventure called life. And so it is.